So I recently made a video about how the reason that I like to build food forests, native plant gardens in people's yards is because of the fact that we're already marshaling a lot of resources, energy, time, money into maintaining those grass lawns. And it's actually not an effort that we need to put more resources into to build native plant gardens, to build food forests in people's yards. We simply need to take the energy that's already there. And in some ways, there's more upfront costs. But if you're paying someone to mow your lawn once a week, when you have a food forest, you can pay someone to come out a couple times a year. After a couple years, it might be completely zero maintenance, once a year for a check-in, or a couple times a year. But there is more upfront cost. However, that doesn't really change very much. So this video is going to be more about industrial agriculture. Go watch that video. It was the first one that I uploaded that was shot at this location. And yeah, so that's why I like to build food forests, native plant gardens. It answers the question, and this is something I didn't touch on in the last video. It really answers the question that people say about, yeah, native plants, great, ecological conservation. We just can't afford it economically as a society. And this is a question that really makes no sense. People's jobs are being taken up. Plenty of people are being freed up to do labor with AI or whatever. All those people should be going into preserving our environment, not all of them. Many different things need more work. So this is something where people will argue that, well, industrial agriculture is efficient. So as far as building gardens in people's yards, no, really, it's just a very clean argument. You don't really need to get into the weeds with that one because of the fact that we're already actually putting a bunch of resources into these useless grass lawns that destroy the environment. We dump chemicals into them that leach into and destroy waterways and water systems. So now within the context of industrial agriculture, how do I think about this? Now, this is something where obviously having fruit trees growing everywhere in people's yards is going to lower the amount of industrial agriculture that needs to be done. Got some crows. But just having a food forest, you're going to get a lot of medicinal plants, some perennial vegetables, fruit. You'll get a big, well, my voice is really echoing throughout the canyon, even though I'm not that loud. A big part of the year, and you can preserve it for a lot of the rest. But people eat meat, people eat grains. There are some pretty cool grain farming practices out there compared to how terrible industrial grain farming is. But within a broader agricultural context, we look at moving grass lawns into food forests. Well, we still want to grow meat. We want to get rid of the cornfields. We want to get rid of the soybean fields. And doesn't mean that some people can't eat soybeans and corn, but the fact is that a majority of that, not a majority, but a very big portion of corn, for instance, is just going to feeding animals. So all that corn is really just animal feed for factory farmed animals that are miserable every day. So when you look at the practicality of moving from cornfields, animal feedlots, whoa, that's a lot of nonsense. So we have this corn that we grow over here, has to be grown, all these chemicals are dumped into it and manufactured, it's harvested, it's shipped, it's brought to a concentrated feedlot because we're feeding these cows the corn, chickens, pigs, we need to get rid of their poop, so then that's trucked back to the farm. All of these massive systems and resources are built around, and we can't tear down an old factory farm building, we can't repurpose the building. So all of these systems are in place that are largely transportation, tools. People have to buy new tractors relatively often. So all of these resources are being put into this system that is just massively inefficient. And it's so funny that we just think it makes sense. It's more efficient to grow corn because you see this farmer out there with his 100-acre field that he can cultivate in a couple days of work with a tractor. And really, we're just trucking around all these resources that should be integrated in the same ecosystem. And so this argument isn't even about the fact that industrial agriculture is completely unsustainable, but the fact that with modern electric fencing practices that are run by solar panels that can be portable and easily moved, we can have these massive swaths of land that are maintained by massive herds of cattle. Cattle do mob grazing. There's a instinctive way that cattle graze the land in a mob. They'll just go to town and basically, I mean, pretend this was a prairie, just mow it all down to the ground. Take a big dump, and then it'll look more like that. Not really, but then you leave it for at least 30 days, and that's what prairie ecosystems are actually adapted to. So that's how you regenerate the cornfields. I don't know of a better way to regenerate cornfields than rotational cattle grazing. And now a lot of these cornfields, obviously I'm in Minnesota is where I live. You're looking at Iowa, Nebraska, and actually the entire Great Plains, which is a massive, massive swath of land. It's really where this ecological degradation has been the absolute worst, where we've really just completely destroyed these ecosystems. So as far as regenerating this, what do those ecosystems live on? That's where we used to have 10 million bison. So if you have some kind of large herbivore grazing the area, you plant seeds, just spread it wide, broadcast, which is very efficient, very cheap, and you can actually do in little strips and let it spread. So you could take hundreds of thousands of acres, put these seeds down, rotationally graze it with cattle, and every single year the quality of the soil, because of the new manure, working symbiotically with these prairie grasses, which are adapted to mob grazing and thrive on it, biodiversity will increase, as well as the soil health. And in 5 to 10 years, you can take 100,000 acres, 100 acres, whatever it is, of old cornfield and regenerate it into a thriving prairie system. The reason I bring up the idea of 100,000 acres is because bison, cattle, actually have the instinct to rotationally graze. They go sit in a valley and then they'll find their way to the next valley. It's just that when you're on a small, let's say even say 100-acre plot of land, they don't have the ability to do that. You have to do it with electric fencing. But when we're talking about regenerating these massive swaths of the Great Plains, so what is this corn going to? We don't need corn for fuel. Corn for fuel is inefficient. It's a gimmick. We don't need to eat very much corn. Like, we can grow corn, sure, and eat it, but humans don't eat that much corn. We're not living off of corn. Corn is grown so much because it's subsidized by the American government. We put a majority of our agricultural subsidies, by far, into industrial agriculture and very little into sustainable regenerative agriculture. So all it simply takes is a cultural shift in perspective, a political policy-wide shift in subsidies. And you could take even, let's say, 1 million acres, stop growing corn in it, plant these seeds, and reintroduce bison. Have people who manage the bison and make sure they're healthy, get the populations to spread, and then we can eat the bison. We can get an output from that. We can eat the bison, we can eat the cattle, we can have ranchers that take care of them, or we can just have some wild bison. And it's massively efficient compared to growing corn for these bison. It's so much more nutritious. The grass that they're eating is growing back super rapidly. So you're able to grow a massive amount of meat instead of just this corn that grows once in the year, is propped up by artificial fertilizers, nitrogen, NPK, and has really no nutritional value. So you're getting much healthier food. And that's kind of how I see, like, we just need to remarshal these resources. And that last video was about how to do this in people's lawns. But, like, really, where is the biggest impact going to be? A lot of California, a lot of the western United States. We've got these mountains, and logging is a terrible thing. We need to find a new way to do logging, which is really just having more awareness that you can't just tear down an old growth forest and replant. We already have enough areas that we've destroyed the logging with and planted monoculture trees that we can just keep logging those and work on regenerating the old growth forests. But if you look at the Great Plains, man, there are just swaths of land, just hundreds and hundreds of miles where the ecology is completely destroyed, where wilderness is just these small little oases of habitat that's left. So yeah, really, the resources are there, the efforts are there. Obviously, it takes a little bit of upfront cost and effort to change a system that is in place. That's completely the case. You can't deny that, but it's just the fact that we already have this system in place. We already have these efforts, these resources, and it's not like we can continue the way things are going. We literally won't be able to grow corn in that soil if we keep destroying it. So that's the video. Peace.